Hey guys, and welcome to my new video. Recently, Toho released its first trailer to Godzilla Minus One, and I have to say, it looks quite stunning. Toho's last Godzilla movie was Shin, which was released 7 years ago. And this masterpiece managed to bring Godzilla back to the roots, at least from a Japanese point of view. In the legendary franchise, Godzilla is considered as a great hero, a protector, saving everyone from Titan threats and keeping the Titans in check. A force restoring the balance of the natural order. In the Japanese version, however, Godzilla is more considered as a merciless monster, a terrible and unstoppable force of nature, a power so great that it destroys everything in its path, bringing nothing but suffering and pain. The movie is directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who is also responsible for the visual effects. And so far, it looks like he did a good job. He's famous for Japanese World War II movies like Eternal Zero, Flight of No Return, or The Great War of Archimedes. Movies with entertaining storylines, great acting, amazing effects, and epic music. He also directed the movie Sunset on 3rd Street, where Godzilla appeared in a short dream sequence and destroyed the city. What we see so far when we were analyzing the trailer. The movie takes place in a post-war Japan after the events of World War II. In the first shot of the trailer, we see a devastated part of a city. A reason that indicates that this city has to be Tokyo is this building right here. The Ginza Clock Tower, which still stands in Tokyo today. We can probably assume that the destruction was caused by Godzilla and not by the 2 atomic bombs, as the bombs were dropped over Hiroshima and Nagasaki and not over Tokyo. Or it was an air raid of the United States. The last air raid on Tokyo took place on August 15th. The bombers were primarily targeting civilian areas of the city, which resulted in extensive destruction and many casualties. But I think it was Godzilla in this case. In the next scene, we see a giant crater in the middle of a destructed area. It is important to mention that the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs detonated around 500 and 600 meters above the ground. Atomic bombs that explode in the air and don't make contact with the ground usually don't create craters, or at least no deep ones. However, there can be small craters caused by the impact of thrown objects due to the atomic blast, but I think the crater here is too big to have been caused by a thrown object, or it was simply created by the atomic blast. Who knows? In the next shot, we get a closer look at Hiroshima or Nagasaki. It shows the widespread destruction caused by the atomic bombs, or maybe it was even Godzilla himself. But when you analyze the way the destruction looks like, it's quite clear that it was the bomb. Nevertheless, the city is completely destroyed and only ruins are remaining. We see a large number of people gathering in front of the ruins. What is interesting is that the rescue teams are wearing some kind of a protective film, but probably not because of the radiation, because at that time not much is known about the threats of the atomic age. Then the trailer shows us a quote saying, "From 0 to minus." But what exactly does that mean? What does -1 stands for? The president of Toho International, Koji Ueda, explained, "Set in a post-war Japan, Godzilla Minus One will once again show us a Godzilla that is a terrifying and overwhelming force, which you already get a sense of from the teaser trailer and poster. The concept is that Japan, which had already been devastated by the war, faces a new threat with Godzilla, bringing the country into the minus." So, -1 refers to the situation Japan is going through right now. Japan has just gone through a terrible war and lost it. The 2 nuclear strikes made things even worse. That means the country has lost everything and starts again from 0. The nation, which has already crumbled by the war, now has even to deal with a greater threat. A threat comparable to the 2 nuclear attacks. A giant radioactive monster. The country that thought it could recover and find peace now is falling behind again, from 0 to worse. In other words, from 0 to -1. When I saw the first trailer, I thought that -1 actually refers to the timeline of the Godzilla franchise. The original Godzilla movie from 1954 is probably seen as the number 1 or 0 of the movie franchise. And since Godzilla -1 already takes place before the events of the original 1954 movie in year 1945, it is called -1, meaning it takes place before the original movies of the film series and is therefore called -1. But I was wrong. And then it begins. We see Godzilla being on a rampage. He tears down entire buildings, killing hundreds of people by smacking them out of the way with his tail. People still try to escape and are running for their lives, but that doesn't help them. They get buried under Godzilla's massive body. In the next shot, we see a train being thrown on railway tracks by Godzilla. This could be a reference to the 1954 movie scene, where Godzilla picks up a train and tries to chew it up. Then we can see the ground keep being torn up. That's probably caused by Godzilla's footstep. Next we can see people keep running for their lives again. You can literally feel their panic and fear they must have. And in the next shot we see Godzilla's foot when he steps on the ground. Entire streets are torn up. When you take a closer look, you can even see people being thrown into the air. Then we see a little girl who got probably separated from her parents due to the chaos. After that we see the logo of the movie and a voice saying Godzilla minus one. And finally we see Godzilla's face trying to bite into a train. This is probably the train that was thrown onto the train tracks in the previous scene. I have to say, Godzilla looks really terrifying and giving me goosebumps. The design is quite unique in its own way. Godzilla looks very much like a dinosaur, especially his head shape and his claws. The skin looks like a mixture of a mutation and the moldy skin of a lizard. The skin also looks quite fresh, as it was formed not that long ago. This could possibly point to the effects of the nuclear attacks, which also took place not that long ago. You can see that Toho wants something more of a back to the roots design, a design representing their franchise, representing Godzilla, fear and terror. But what I also have to say, even though I like Godzilla's new design, I'm not a fan of his feet and hips. They are literally too big and chubby for my taste. The legs of legendary Godzilla look way better in my eyes. The legs are straighter and seem to be more stable, allowing him to be more flexible and move faster in a combat. But I don't think minus one will have to fight another monster in this movie. Concerning minus one's legs, I think they are quite similar to Shin's legs, meaning they're not very fast and therefore also not very flexible. But what I believe, minus one's legs are definitely way faster than Shin's. The Godzilla community has divided opinions concerning his dorsal plates. I personally absolutely love this new dorsal plate design. They look very threatening and dangerous. If you compare the minus one dorsal plates to the ones of legendary Godzilla, you can see that they look way sharper and are also a bit bigger. Even though we've already had similar designs in earlier movies, these look quite amazing. It is not known if Godzilla will have an atomic breath or not. Some people even speculate that this time Godzilla will not have an atomic breath that looks like a laser, but more like a mist or smoke, like in the first movie. Maybe also a new color, like red, green or white. The official release date for Japan is November the 3rd, but the trailer also tells us that the release date for the US will be the 1st of December. Unfortunately, I don't think we will see this movie in Europe, which is quite sad. Shin Godzilla had its premiere in July 2016 in Japan. 3 months later, in October 2016, the movie was released for a limited time in the US, and 1 year later, in February 2017, the movie was also released in Europe. Toho has not yet stated if the film will be released in Europe as well. Not much is known about the plot of the movie or the main characters. Who knows, maybe we will get a cameo of Professor Zava or see the Oxygen Destroyer, but I don't think so. But what we know that this movie takes place after the Second World War. It is not known how much time passed between the drop of the atomic bombs and the first appearance of Godzilla in this movie. The movie will probably have a similar storyline to the 1954 Godzilla movie. Godzilla makes land in Tokyo and rampages through the city, killing thousands. What I'm not sure about is the question if Japan still has the military power to fight against Godzilla at that time after the war and the heavy bombardment of Tokyo. In the 1954 movie, Japan had 9 years after the war to recover and rebuild its military. Now the military is weakened after the war. Sending military support from one place to the other is probably very difficult, especially as many roads have been destroyed. But what we can say for sure, it's gonna be a very dark movie. I think what they want to show us in this movie is the suffering of the people after Godzilla's attack. We can see people dying or being seriously injured, children crying for the dead parents, people who will die due to starvation or lack of medical care. We will see suffering, fear, desperation and pain. I think we will see some disturbing pictures which are based on real life events. But we have to keep in mind what Godzilla actually represents. It represents the suffering of Japan caused by the 2 nuclear attacks, and a symbol against nuclear actions, including effects of radioactivity and generally against destruction. In addition, it is also a symbol of Japan's post-war trauma and resilience. So thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!